You really want to compare the
respect this.
legislative track record
Yes.
between Biden and Trump? Okay, let's
give
go
me
then.
30 seconds.
Oh, dude,
Okay.
stop cheating, dude. You know you muted me
What do you
out
mean
of
you're
turn.
cheating? Oh, I'm being prosecuted. Oh, my God, it's a debate.
I have long hair. I have
Conservatives, but you bitch. You're the only.
You are a
Down
child.
syndrome birds.
You are a literal child. You are an actual
Fantastic.
child. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes, that's what a child says. That's a child comeback.
You okay with that?
Andrew, you've always been a and the only thing that's going to change is one day you might have more kids.
Pals, I think you're really going to enjoy this video. If you do, please hit the like and subscribe button and comment button. It really helps out.
So let's get started. Today we're going to be debating the debate, and it's the presidential debate, debateception. Kamala versus Trump, Harris versus Trump. What is your reaction to what we just saw between Harris and Trump? Do you think Trump won? Do you think Harris won? How do you think it went? And how does it reflect on the race?
Well, I think the polls across the board have demonstrated that it's somewhere around 50% of the people thought she won the debate, 25% of the people thought that Trump won the debate, and 25% were undecided. So the public at large surely seems to believe that she got the better of it by pretty much a landslide. Trump seemed like he was phoning it in the entire time. It was pretty low energy. If you compare his debate performance in 2016, it's quite obvious that he is not the same man that he was back then. Not quite as bad as Biden in the last debate, obviously, but definitely low energy. I think Kamala went in there with a game plan to get under his skin and rattle him. And I think she was obviously successful in doing that. He spent far less time attacking her than she spent attacking him because he was spending most of his time defending himself. She would throw a little bit of bait into each answer, and he took the bait every single time. I think she went into it clearly prepared and she executed on that plan. So I don't think there's any question who won this debate.
Andrew, would you like to expand at all about why you think Trump might have edged out on the debate?
Yeah, well, he just had he had kind of better zingers. The thing is that Harris didn't present any kind of new vision for America. It was just a continuation of Biden policies. There was nothing extravagant that she said which stood out. There was no kind of great reforms that she's promoting. Even when I looked at her plan, I was looking at her plan this morning in preparation for the debate. She's not really doing much. She's adding 4% to the corporate tax rate. And that's about it. I mean, there's not really much in the way of deviation. She wants the same type of assault weapons ban. She wants all the kind of same progressive tripe that we've been hearing about nonstop for years. So there's just really nothing that makes her stand out. I'd love to hear any policy from any of these liberal scumbags on this panel. Any policy that makes Kamala Harris stand out, they won't be able to name a single one, not one.
$25,000 for first-home buyers.
You made a claim before that we couldn't identify a single policy that she put forward. Is that your claim before?
That's not what you said.
Okay, sorry. So are you able at this moment
What did I say, bro? What did I say?
You said that none of the Democrat left-wing people on this panel are going to be able to identify a single policy proposal that she put out.
Nope, I didn't.
Or a new policy
That's incorrect. You're an idiot.
Restate your claim. Restate your claim.
Stop
We'll
talking.
go to the VOD.
So I'll stop talking. Go to the VOD. I said you
address you.
find a single policy position that made her stand out, Pisco.
How about the purchase? What would you think about the purchase of or the construction of 3 million new homes? That was a policy put out by Kamala Harris.
So 3 million new homes. I really made her stand out. What a great policy.
I want to be a little bit more charitable.
So that's what we have here, right? So anything that we propose that we think will either be incremental or be different, this is a policy that neither Trump proposed, that Biden didn't propose. It is a novel policy. Would you acknowledge that, Andrew? It's novel.
No, I don't think it's novel. Democrats have been talking about the rebuilding of America through infrastructure every single election of my lifetime.
Our homes infrastructure?
Yes, they're
our personal homes infrastructure.
Yes, of course it's infrastructure.
What is not infrastructure, Andrew?
What are you talking about?
Is everything infrastructure?
Everything that the government is going to build, if they're going to build public housing, yeah, I would consider that to be infrastructure.
Would you consider the government is just like giving checks to people to spend on their rent? Is that infrastructure?
No, that would be welfare.
Oh, so what's the definition of infrastructure for you?
Why are we being pedantic with this? Just tell me what you want, Pisco.
It seems like what you're trying to do is you're trying to put a big label on it and say infrastructure and say, well, it's just the same kind of infrastructure policy as before, because look, Biden had an infrastructure policy, but you know that there's a difference in kind between purchasing homes and purchasing things like
stand out,
roads and that thing. They're different, right? And this is a policy. Yeah, not to you, because you're going to say anything that we. Yeah, because you're
the next day was like, oh my God, did you hear? Kamala's
yeah.
New home. Nobody said that, Pisco. Nobody gives a shit.
Wait. Okay, how about Pisco?
About 3 million homes, Pisco. Nobody cares.
People don't care about housing.
Clearly say why 3 million homes matter, and then we'll have Andrew just respond clearly. So talking over each other.
Clearly, the American people have made it abundantly apparent to everybody that housing prices and the price of housing is a big concern of theirs. In fact, it's one of the big sources of angst in America and Middle America, as well as in other countries, Canada, UK. Everyone is going through a cost of living crisis in this country. And for Andrew to say, oh, who the cares about houses? Who the cares about prices and homes? Shows what's going on here. What Andrew is saying is, I don't want housing to become affordable for people. I don't want people to be able to purchase homes. And I think that policies that are crafted for that aim are stupid. I mean, then say what you feel and admit that what you don't really care about. You don't really care. You don't really care. Wait, hang on. You don't really care about people having access to affordable housing.
You can't even go buy food at the grocery store, and they're worried about housing prices. It's the most outrageous, ridiculous bullshit I've ever seen.
You guys sound so out of touch.
Problems. Oh,
no,
I'm out of touch.
No.
I'm not out of touch. Listen. They had a jobs report come back. It's 800,000 less. If I went to my stockholders and said, "Hey, we're going to make 800,000 less this year than what was predicted," guess what? My stock prices would drop. It's the same thing here. They're lying, and then they turn around and go, "Hey, we're going to give you this little consolation prize, housing," which probably won't even solve the problem. And secondly, it's such a drop in the bucket. It doesn't affect any of the real issues. It's total bullshit.
Even with that revision, Biden had stronger job numbers than Trump did. Even if you take away COVID losses and gains from COVID,
because everybody's gonna work 3 jobs with that revision. One thing of milk, bro. Like milk.
Yeah,
like
great argument, Hutch. We devastated the economy.
We saved
he
it,
made
bro.
a claim. He made a claim about jobs. It's a simple point. He made a point about how they revised the job numbers down. But even if you account for that, there were more jobs that were created on Biden's watch. Even if you get rid of the job losses during COVID and then the bounce back, the initial recovery.
True.
If you're making a point about jobs, then we need to address that.
Totally false.
It's not false. Anybody who's watching this right now, you can look it up yourselves.
As far as the jobs go, there are 5 million more jobs in America today than February 2020 before the pandemic. And you guys said these are because people have 3 jobs. But the thing is, we've had a record unemployment rate. It's been below 4%, or it was below 4% for a record stretch we haven't seen since the 60s. We hit record unemployment 3.4%, below even what Trump accomplished. So I feel like a lot more people in this country are employed, and this isn't the case that you guys portray. Everybody's got a part-time job.
Everybody does have a part-time job, but
5%. It's 5% of the workforce.
That's wrong. Everybody's got a part-time gig.
5% of the workforce.
Yeah, I don't believe your numbers, even if you show them to me. I know too many people in my everyday life, even if it's anecdotal. You can just go ask anybody. Everybody's got to do 2 things.
Why do you not believe the numbers?
Why you can go ask 10 random people at HEB or Walmart or wherever, and they all will tell you they're doing 2 things. And there's no way.
This is what they do. This is what they do when Democrats are in charge. They accuse Democrats of cooking the books every single time.
We've already caught you cooking the books and the job numbers. Why would I believe you with this 5% bullshit?
Anybody that's listening can look up the job numbers. Anybody can look up the job numbers.
You'll lie about Biden. Every time y'all say Kamala's got a policy, half the time it's just Trump's policies. Listen, it sounds like you got 2 halves of nothing. And what basically that equals out to is a whole lot of nothing. And y'all are sitting here just trying to pass off vagaries and nebulous policy and buzzwords like opportunity economy and say we're going to fix it. Well, Trump asked a valiant question. Hey, 3.5 years, y'all ain't done. It's only got worse. Why hasn't it been fixed since then? And nobody's been able to answer that here.
The whole world has been suffering through economic problems. This is not an American-centric thing. So we've done pretty well compared to the rest of the world.
We sure have. And what's more, in 2 years, we've only had Congress for 2 years. And those 2 years, there was a ton of bipartisan legislation passed. The CHIPS Act, the Infrastructure Act, the other kind of weird gun legislation that was bipartisan in nature.
Y'all have had the presidency for 12 of the last 16 years, Pisco. Like, what do you mean? Like, y'all have been the leader of the free world, and it's been this dog.
why does this
for
need to
like
turn?
the whole time.
Why does this need to turn into a civics lesson? You understand that Congress is the one that
We're gonna do a
passes
civics
major
lesson. Okay,
legislation,
do you know what
right?
executive orders are? Like, yeah, I mean, you act like they don't have.
I'm not sure
Hang
what
on.
you guys are picking
when
this
we try to
fight.
do when we try to do major when we try to do major executive action, for example, and you might not agree with the underlying policy, but Biden made a promise with student loan, and you might say that that's stupid or whatever. But when the administration tries to do stuff, who are the first people suing? It's Republican governors, Republican individuals.
It's an interesting point to me that you guys want to pick a fight on policy when it came to the debate. What policies did Trump articulate during that debate besides tariffs?
Wait, are you surprised?
Drill, baby, drill.
Let's let IRI finish. Rob went for a bit. I want to hear an extended response.
Why are we doing what about us?
Somebody want to answer Rob's cavalcade of nonsense.
If you want an answer to the question, Biden got way more legislation passed. Biden got way more legislation passed during his first 2 years than Trump did. The very first thing that Trump tried to do when he was president was repeal and replace the, Obamacare. He failed. The next thing he did was the tax cuts that the Republicans had been clamoring to do for decades. And then what did he get done after that? What were his major signature pieces of legislation? You really want to compare the legislative track record between Biden and Trump? Okay, let's go
give me
then.
30 seconds and give me 30 seconds, I'll answer this.
Sure.
Because what Kamala Harris is running on is being an agent of change. Why, if she's been there in charge for 4 years, haven't they done any of these things?
She wasn't in charge, Rob.
Let me finish. You respond with, but they actually got a lot of done. They actually got to do a lot of what they wanted.
Yes,
it's true.
Exactly. And the American people are not happy with it. So then your counter argument, which is, well, they couldn't get things done that they wanted done, but this time they will, is bullshit. As you're admitting, they did get a ton legislatively done, and America has given it the thumbs down.
Why did we have a historically good midterm? Why did we expand our majority in the Senate during an economic downturn? Why did we make Trump a one-term president, the first since George H.W. Bush? If your leadership and Trump's leadership and your policies were so popular,
social issue. It's because of social issues. It's nothing to do with
during
the
an economic downturn. It should have been a bloodbath. So what you guys are saying, is that your policies are not popular.
People knew that Trump's economy got shut down. They knew it. That it got shut down when they were thriving.
Because of a pandemic.
Andrew, quick thing. Your mic keeps peaking when you talk. It peaks and it's kind of hard to hear you.
So he asked, why haven't he done all these things in 4 years? It's an absolutely sound answer that IRI gave. That first of all, we were cleaning up a mess. We were in the middle of a COVID pandemic, and it was a crisis. The first thing that the Biden administration did was pass a Recovery Act. You could say it's inflationary, but you look at economic analysis after the fact. They don't attribute it, the inflationary effect of that policy or other policies to those specific pieces of legislation. In fact, it's a global inflation crisis that is facing the entire world. And as IRI or Hutch, I think, pointed out, America, relatively speaking, has recovered better than the other G7 countries, better than the other advanced economies. We got a ton of legislation passed. I'm willing to fight and defend this administration for what it stood for and what it got done. You point to the fact that there are bad polls. Trump had bad polls in his term. If we just look to polls to determine, or the general trend of the economy and this kind of correlation equals causation analysis, I mean, that would be a great way to defend like the policies of George Bush right before the Great Recession, right? You have to look more than just how the economy generally was doing or what people think about it generally, and look to the policies themselves. The last point I'll make is no thinking person thinks that Kamala Harris was in charge of the administration for the past 3 or 4 years. That's pure fantasy. If you read any of the reports of the insiders of who's operating things behind the scenes, or whether Joe Biden was in charge in the first few years, no one is saying that Kamala Harris is running the show.
Harris herself has said of many of these issues, she was the last person in the room. And my statement is, Harris is just like Biden is, an empty suit that people behind the scenes will be running. The same people behind the scenes running the Biden economy or administration will be running hers.
Right now, people are experiencing high gas prices, high grocery prices, their day-to-day living, right, expenses have shot through the roof. And you're moving into this election promising them, well, in the future, it'll be better, when under Trump, it already was better. So it's easy for people when they're moving into the voting booth in order for Republicans to point this out. And that's what people are talking about. That's what all the buzz is.
If the situation is as terrible as you're saying, why isn't Trump up 10 points right now?
I don't want to jump in, Gibbs, but we had 2 righties. We have to have a lefty response. Then I'll throw it back to you, Gibbs. I'm sorry, but there has to be a
just want to ask my conservative panel people, like, if everything that you're saying right now, that Biden's presidency has just been this disaster for everybody, why isn't he up 10 points right now? Why did she?
Because he got taken off of the
he was dominating against Biden, and a part of
he's
what
not
Kamala's
now.
doing is
why isn't he beating Kamala by 10 points? Everybody's miserable, right?
because she's not Biden. I mean, here's the thing. Y'all threw a de facto coup after y'all told us, hey, for months, years, Biden was fine. And y'all took Biden down quicker than a nickel night. That mother was stacking out of there so fast. I've never
Dropped
seen
him like a prom dress.
Our
Dropped him
candidate was
dress.
losing the
He's literally
election,
on the
and we
beach
pressured
drinking-
him out, and now our
he's-
current
he's
candidate is
literally
leading
on
the
the
election.
Based. And it was based, and I'm glad we did it, and it was
literally
good, and it was not anti-democratic.
It's unfortunate
Your
for you
guy tried to
guys that it's too
steal
late
our
to replace your
Wait,
candidate.
Guys, there's three people talking at the same time.
I want to ask the panel, do we feel like we got to learn more about Kamala Harris's actual preferred policies and some of the details? Because like Joe mentioned earlier, there's a lot of things that wasn't done in the previous administration. She wasn't really pressed on some of the guts of her proposals. So it's like, do we really feel like both of the candidates were questioned adequately about their current proposals going into 2024?
It wasn't a
Chuck,
super
nobody
policy.
answered my question earlier about opportunity economy. No one was able to define that. I'm very happy.
Well,
to hear your
she
answer.
defined it with different policies, like expanding the child tax credit, the $25,000 grant for first-time
a
home
Republican
buyers.
policy. Yeah, the child tax credit, which has been a Republican policy.
Why did the Republicans
alive.
block it from being permanent? They
Why?
blocked it in the Senate from being permanent. They didn't take up the issue.
Strategic, bro.
You're calling it a
sorts of shit, like-
Republican policy. Democrats were the ones that were trying.
Policy. She just picked it up. Just
So
like
why
she
did they
picked up
block
the no
it?
taxes on
Why
sex,
did-
just like she's put Trump's border plan,
Okay.
border wall in her ads.
Well-
she has no real plans.
Well,
She just
Republicans
listens to what
blocked that
people like
policy
trends,
for the record.
and she
Anybody can look
posted.
that up.
So this is
yeah,
a
just
tangent
like-
discussion.
just
It's
this
not
is
answering the
total
question I
bullshit.
asked.
Just like it's not answering the question. Yeah,
She
you asked.
gave
He didn't
more
answer the
details
question
on
I
policy
asked.
than Donald
He's
Trump
over here
did.
just
When
lying.
Donald Trump was asked about his healthcare policy, he said he had a concept of a plan.
Wow, and
that was
you have
one of
zero plan. He's got
options,
options.
if
That's
not
not even
the
true. He
worst
answered that he
answer
used what
I
was
have
already in
ever
one
heard
place.
a candidate give on a debate stage. You're
Oh
a
my
presidential
God. You're
candidate,
you're
and you say you have
misrepresenting
a
what he said.
concept of a plan.
Turk,
And you
was-
guys want to
at
make
some
this
point, I feel
about
like.
policy?
So that's the soundbite that everyone's running with. If you go back 30 seconds, a minute to that
Right.
entire stretch of questioning, he goes and says, we're not going to replace it unless we can get a bill that is cheaper and it has better coverage than the current plan.
But he doesn't have any
You
ideas.
didn't listen to
But
his
they're being
answer.
dishonest.
No, I
You
did.
listened to the soundbite.
No, I did, but it's his job to
current plans
pitch a
were-
No,
plan.
you didn't hear it. You
I
listened to
did.
the soundbite.
He
If I
says,
may,
I'm not going to
let me
replace it
jump in
unless
here.
there's a more detailed plan. It's his job as a candidate to articulate a plan.
To any of you conservatives, tell
Yeah,
us
so
what Trump's solution is to bring down the cost of housing.
I ask you, do you know what drill baby drill means?
Well, we're already setting a record for oil production at 13.3 million
That is
barrels per day.
precisely
I can
my
answer your
all.
question,
No,
too.
Donald
so
Trump
this is
did.
precisely.
Biden has proven that we can drill more under Biden than Trump. So what would Trump do to increase oil
And what
production?
and
Biden-
what
More
happened
oil,
once we
baby.
started increasing oil production?
I don't
we
know.
started
The
increasing
inflation
more
rate
oil,
started to
we-
go down.
We-
The cost of transit of material, the cost of production of material reduced. There are several different economic factors that can be eliminated and are addressed by drill baby drill.
But
when Trump
what
says,
more
I'm going to do
can
that
Trump
even
do?
more,
No,
it's
no, no.
going to be even
How
more.
can we do more? We're setting a record under Biden that Trump was unable to do. Trump gave them the green light, and Biden broke the record. We're over 13 million barrels per day.
And
You're
he's
in a
going to
fantasy
do
land that we're going to do
more.
more. We're
It's
just
not
going
going to be enough.
There
How?
are plenty of oil
How?
reserves. There are plenty of oil reserves. We can go to more federal lands. We can unlock more and more offshore drilling.
He
There is
emptied the oil
plenty of
reserves
oil
to
to be
flood the
extracted from our nation.
He emptied our reserves to flood the market to drive the price down. You say that when
you
he
realize
started,
that we
you
just
say
found
that
some
when
of the
he
biggest
started
oil-
wait,
drilling
I
more
addressed
oil,
IRA's
that
question.
you guys don't give Biden credit because he emptied our reserves, flooded the market, and drove the cost of oil down. You say when he
Well, why
started,
did he do that when
Hold
we
on,
had
wait,
zero
one more,
straight
one
back
more,
up
one more thing,
after he
real
stopped
quick.
doing that.
One more thing, real quick. You say that when he started producing more oil, the cost of inflation went down. He started ramping up oil production right away. You guys understand that
No, he
when?
didn't.
Yes, he did.
That
You
was
can
not
look at the
right away.
graph. Yes, I can link it in the chat right here. There's a domestic crude
It
oil
took
production right here.
a couple of years for Joe Biden to finally start actually increasing oil capacity
That's
across
not-
the nation.
No, it's not true. Here.
All right, then
Let
send
me
the
put
link.
it- yes.
Let's talk about the link.
It's just
What's
you can just
stopping
look
inflation
up
was
US
lowering
crude-
inflation, and what's brought us down to 2.5 inflation is the Federal Reserve raising interest rates.
That is a contributing factor.
Under
I
Joe
agree.
Biden, the Federal Reserve has had excellent policy raising interest rates to lower inflation. Under Donald Trump, throughout his presidency, he was asking always to lower lower interest rates.
My friend Hutch, though, I wanted to get you involved and ask you a question.
Sure.
I think you erroneously say that the border is secure now. I don't believe that, but let's just say hypothetically that's true. You think that Biden achieved that by executive order? A simple yes, no, be correct or sufficient. His executive order did that?
After pursuing a bipartisan immigration bill that they negotiated for 5 months with Langford and Sinema, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
My question is, why did Biden say the border was secure for 3 years and not issue an executive order if he could have done it all the while?
There's a difference between.
I don't think he can. I think what he's doing is illegal, and I disagree with it. And I condemn the Biden administration for doing an illegal executive action.
Okay, so my point is, okay, go ahead, I'll respond quickly. Go ahead, Hutch.
The problem with the border is our asylum laws. You guys understand this, right? Our asylum
No,
laws
it's
are.
not.
Yes,
Holy
yes,
Christ.
it is. Anybody can wait.
first.
Hold on.
Let him
Anybody,
define- let him say the problem
anybody
first,
can
yeah.
come to our border, and as long as they go through legal means and they meet a certain set of criteria, they can apply for asylum. And when they apply for asylum, they are allowed to come into the country, sometimes with an ankle monitor, sometimes with a burner phone. And this backlog takes anywhere between 5 to 8 years. Our immigration laws were written in the 60s, well before we saw the level of influx that we've seen during recent times. If you want to address the problem at the border meaningfully, you need a bill through Congress, which is why he worked with Republicans. Langford is a MAGA Republican. This is not a rhino. He himself and McConnell and Lindsey Graham all admitted, and Trump himself admitted that Trump killed that bill for political reasons. If you want to address the border, why did he kill the bill?
Rob, I'm sorry, Rob, but Gibbs has been waiting though.
Please,
the border.
let me address this for 30
Sorry, Bob.
seconds.
Well,
I'm doing the border.
Gibbs is saying he doesn't. He's not allowing you.
I want to fact check Hutch live on air.
Let's just
That's
talk.
right. I'm running from the point, Gibbs.
I can
That's
hear you,
cool.
buddy.
He'll squirm away now. Thank you.
Don't worry, it's fine. Let's talk the border. First of all, let me tell you how dishonest this has been. 2016, Trump posted a bill. He wanted to get a bill through Congress. It had everything they had in the most recent bill, except it had more. The only thing not included was the Dreamers. This is how the Democrats work. They use people like the Dreamers, and then they don't even put them on the newest bill and even include them. And so they sit here and go, oh, it's bipartisan, et cetera, even though the other bill gave them more judges, more of everything they wanted, and it gave us the border wall. This guy down here, Hutch, doesn't know what's happening on the border.
You
I
don't
live
know
near
what's
the
in
border.
that bill. You don't know what's in the.
I do know what's in
The bipartisan immigration bill hired more judges and had money for the wall.
I could go point for point on it. You're wrong. You're absolutely incorrect. The bill in 2016.
Who was in charge of Congress in 2016?
It doesn't matter. Listen, it doesn't
What do you mean
matter.
it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Trump's still here.
Let me tell you, you're just wrong. Then let me tell you something. There's a reason why Operation Lone Star has been so wildly successful. Let me give you some statistics. Just from the raid on the Eagle Pass Islands, we got rid of 10,000 migrants apprehended, 52 pounds of fentanyl, 38 pounds of ecstasy, 11 pounds of cocaine, 20 firearms, 5 stolen. That's just 3 little islands in the middle of the Rio Grande. You know why this is important? Because the real problem is not the migration. The real problem is the cartels who are taking advantage of the migration, who are causing problems, who are just damaging ranching here in Texas, damaging ranching in other states. They're destroying American property. They're shipping fentanyl in here at a wild cost. And
So why didn't we pass the border bill, which the Border Patrol supported?
Because of what you're enabling with what the asylum laws and not putting up a wall and deterrence, you're enabling more and more
They tried
sex
to
trafficking.
change the
So
asylum
why, Let me
laws.
ask you lefties and liberals, why do y'all want more sex trafficking?
Why didn't you
Because
support
that's
the
what we're
border
going to
bill?
get until we have a deterrence up.
I want to go on
I'll
record and
look at
say
any of
I'm
them can respond.
anti-sex
Any of them
trafficking.
please want to answer what? Yeah, well, so
So
then
why didn't you
want a wall?
support? Why didn't you support the border bill? The Border Patrol made it clear that they didn't think this was
Border
the
Patrol
perfect
take
option.
anything that-
Let him
But-
finish,
but-
Gibbs. You just get him being basically a sex pest. Let him
But you know,
respond.
this is Congress. Congress, there needs to be agreements. There needs to be balance. Democrats, Republicans. There was a bipartisan border bill. Wouldn't you have supported the bill that the Border Patrol also supported to be passed? Admiral Gibbs, yes or no?
No, absolutely not. It was not.
So you
enough.
don't agree with the Border Patrol. You disagree with them that it should have been passed.
Yeah, listen. If you are an agency,
say that, bro?
you're always going to hold on.
You know more than the
Hold on.
Border Patrol?
Hold on. Yeah, I guess I do. I don't know. This
Okay.
is but that's not what's really happening.
Okay.
Is they're sitting here going, "Hey, we're dying out here. We need more funding." They'll take whatever they can get.
Which is why
Who
they
said no?
supported the
We're not
bill.
giving you funding. No, we're not.
Hold on. Here's what's better. Why didn't y'all support the bipartisan bill in 2016 and threw your foot down on the Dreamers and
What
then not back the
bipartisan
Dreamers?
bill?
in
What
20
bipartisan
and then
bill?
the
There was no
most recent
wait, there
one.
was no bipartisan bill.
There absolutely was in 2016.
No, there wasn't.
I have the link to the bill if you want it. Here, I'll post it in the chat.
So there was gonna be
Here we go,
there was the concept
Here's the
of an
bill.
idea of a bipartisan bill, but that never got through because Trump is a bad negotiator and he could have gotten a shit ton of funding.
Y'all, no, what happened was
can't wait.
the
I can't.
Republican base
One
said no.
second.
We're
Wait.
not gonna do
Let
the-
me. One second. I want to hear Pisco's alternative version of events. Then we'll have Gibbs respond, and then we gotta go to IRI and Turk, who've been waiting very
So we
patiently.
remember, those of
Let
us
me
who were
please-
around and paying attention, we remember the meetings that Democrats in good faith went toward, because we knew Republicans who could have gotten the border funding on their own because they controlled both the House and the Senate went to Democrats to try to get a deal. And in good faith, the Democrats are saying, hey, give us the Dreamers, give us that. But the Republicans put in some poison pills into the bill, which we can talk about, which we can talk about. But the Republicans could have passed it by themselves if they wanted to do it, but they did not do it because you could not get unity because Trump's a bad negotiator. However, again, in 2024, when there's a bipartisan deal, who's the one who puts it into the ground and kills it? Not Democrats.
People along
Trump.
the border.
Again,
No,
Trump.
it was
Again.
Trump.
It
It
was
was Trump.
the problem.
It's Trump
No,
again. So
that's not what-
He
I'll
took
ask
credit
again.
for
I'll
it.
ask again.
He says he
Let-
killed the
let's let
bill.
this go.
You have a bill that, yes, conservatives don't think is perfect. Yes, the Border Patrol hates Biden, hates Harris. 100% they do. But this is a bill they wanted if they were going to have anything, because otherwise the alternative was nothing. And you say they shouldn't have got what they wanted. So how come we should trust you on what's best for Border Patrol?
Well, it's entailed in your own. Hang on, it's entailed literally in what you just said, Pisco. You just said it was this or nothing, right? So of course they're going to take whatever's offered. If you offer a person gruel, or nothing, and then say, well, they took the gruel, that means they wanted gruel. That's not true. That is not. That
They
is
didn't
not
call.
the
They
case,
didn't call it
Pisco.
gruel. They did not call it gruel.
no,
They said it
I
wasn't.
understand
They said it wasn't perfect.
I
They said
understand
it.
the intent.
Wait,
They
there's
said
three
it.
people talking at once. We're gonna have
Andrew,
a response to
I
Andrew, and
just
we gotta
don't
go back
understand.
to Gibbs because he was the person the question was directed towards.
I understand an entailment to be something that necessarily follows. Logically, that's an
Right, doesn't
inferential-
necessarily follow that
Okay,
they
so it's
wanted
not-
it because that's all that they could
They
have.
did want it.
Wait, hang on.
They wanted something different than that. That's just all they could get.
They didn't call- they did not
what is
call
the
it
entailment that I'm
gruel.
providing?
You're saying the inference is
bullshit.
they wanted this, right? No, they
They
wanted something
did.
different. They just would have taken this
No, you
because
just
that's all they
talked
could
They
about
didn't
it.
get.
call it gruel. They did not call it
Literally.
gruel.
He's-
We need to be clear about what the Border Patrol said. What they said was the head of the Border Patrol said, while not perfect, the Border Act of 2024 is a step in the right direction and is far better than the current status quo. This is why the National Border Patrol Council endorses this bill and hopes for its quick passage. Donald Trump personally intervened, called conservative senators and threatened them if they were to give Biden a win during an election year. What you're saying is that you know better than the Border Patrol Union, which, again, this is a divided government. You're not going to get some bill that makes Republicans entirely happy and Democrats entirely happy. It did put limitations on our asylum. That would have helped. It did hire more
What was the first
immigration.
thing they said is better than the status quo?
Immigration. It did provide funding to hire. Excuse me. Let me just finish. To hire more immigration judges. It did have more funding to hire more Border Patrol agents. And Donald Trump killed the bill. So I just don't think you guys have a leg to stand on to saddle this entirely on Biden's watch when he worked with Republicans
100% on
in
Biden's
good
watch.
faith for months. You had the leader of the Senate on the Republican side endorse the
This is
bill.
fake
You
news.
had Langford. It's not fake news. You can look up the quote
It is.
yourself.
What-
They did not
Listen,
call it
we heard the
gruel.
wars on- the
They did not call it
migration's on,
gruel.
none of
They
this
were
got done.
begging for more funding.
We got Hutch to admit that actually all it would have taken was an executive order from the Harris Biden administration to solve everything. They instead lied for 3 years and said that the border was secure and it was fine. There is no answer from anyone on the left by that. The American people correctly blame the Biden-Harris administration because they could have solved this with an executive order. Right, Hutch? Hutch was the one the question was directed to, so I'll get Hutch's answer. I don't need your answer, Pisco. We'll see what Hutch says. He's the one that said that the executive order solved all this.
I kind of want to take a different tack, so let them finish this up, and I want to ask a different question.
Okay, Andrew.
No, you answer Rob's question, Hutch.
I did answer
Don't
his
run.
question.
Answer his question.
It cuts
No, you
both
didn't answer
ways,
shit.
Andrew.
Answer his question.
It cuts both ways. If Donald Trump was able to do border wall by appropriating defense funds, why didn't he do it the first year if it was such an emergency on the border? Why did he do it the first year, Rob? Because he was trying to get it done through Congress, right?
Excuse me.
Yes,
I'll
there you
answer
go.
the question. It's whataboutism, one. So you refuse
not.
to answer the question, said, what about Trump?
No,
Yes, it
I
is.
answered your
You're the one
question.
that said-
He
you're
tried
the
to
one
get
that
it. He
said-
wanted a bill from Congress, and Trump killed the bill, and he did an executive order
Wasn't just-
afterwards.
that's not true. What, in 2021, did Trump kill the bill? In 2022, did Trump kill the bill? In 2023,
Why didn't Trump build the wall in 2017?
Because he
He
was
could have done it.
stymied
He
by
could have done it
Democrats.
himself. He waited 3 years.
You asked a question.
Well, that's
You
amazing.
asked
That's
a
what I
question.
said.
You asked a question and I'll answer.
That's
Well,
right,
it was an
kid.
emergency,
So the
right? He
question-
could have done it.
Amazing. He's using my own
I
point
wanna
here.
I want to hear Rob's response. I
Question
can't hear
and
his
I will
response.
answer.
Rob's in trouble right now.
I'm not in trouble. IRI,
Well,
please.
you're
some
on the
who
ropes.
Claimed that they wanted to stay in their bubble, not debate me. You should keep your own advice. The reason
Damn.
is, right, because you're the person that said that
Oh.
a simple executive order was able to secure the border. The fact is the border was much more secure, largely because of the executive orders of Donald Trump when he was there. I never said Trump could build a wall by executive order. You're the person who said that an executive order, quote, secured the border right now. You can't answer for the fact that if that's all
I
it
did.
took,
You don't listen.
again,
not
you
good.
did not answer, and I'll repeat it. Why did Biden lie for 3 years and say the border was secure when all he had to do was pass an executive order?
I've answered the question. I'm happy to answer it again. A more meaningful way to address the border issue is through Congress. He tried to get that done. When Trump killed that bill, he used an executive order.
That's a lie. What Congress bill was he pushing in 2021?
It's on his website. He has a
No,
comprehensive
shut up,
immigration-
Pisco.
Which
Shut up.
bill was he pushing in 2021 or in 2022 or in 2023?
He did push an immigration
answer
bill,
now.
as far as I understand, in 2021. I'm
what
not
were the
familiar
bills-
with the specifics, but
You've
yeah.
only cited one bill that you said was bipartisan. So if he did something that was totally different, that wasn't this bipartisan bill that didn't have support of Republicans, it wasn't just that he could have solved it with a bill. He was literally gaslighting the country. So was Kamala Harris, that there wasn't a border crisis. So
I
was
don't think there was
Mayorkas.
ever a point where they were saying that it wasn't a crisis. Mayorkas was
Yes.
testifying in front of
agree with
Congress saying that our system is stretched beyond its capacity. Our current infrastructure along our border was never meant to deal with this level of influx. I tried to explain it to you guys before. The issue is our asylum laws. It's not people like crossing the border illegally. It's our asylum infrastructure being overwhelmed by tens of thousands of
It's
people
not, though.
coming from Central South America and Mexico. He tried to pass a bill meaningfully addressing that, and Trump killed it. And so he did an executive
Didn't
order.
Kamala go down there to address the root causes of the issue and
And
just
guess
failed
what?
miserably?
And guess what?
Just like when
I'm
she went
glad
to go
you mentioned
negotiate
that.
and
You're
put
talking about
Putin
the
and
Northern
Zelensky, and 3
Triangle.
days later,
You're
they
talking
rolled
about
in the
the-
tanks. She clearly,
talking about
clearly
the
she's
Northern
really bad at
Triangle.
negotiations with foreign
Listen,
policy.
you're talking about the Northern Triangle. She was in charge of a diplomatic mission to help address the root causes of
And it
migration from
failed
those
miserably,
countries.
correct?
No, guess what happened when she started doing that? Migration went down from those countries
failed.
every year. We announced a massive
my
aid package to Guatemala that Trump canceled on his watch. If you really want to address migration from these countries,
Wait, how did he cancel it on
help
his watch if she was the czar
No,
under
no, no,
Biden? How did
on
that make
his
sense?
watch.
Did he like
On
somehow like take over for Biden?
You're
and
not
cancel the
listening.
pol-
When
like
he
her-
was
oh,
president,
okay.
he canceled a foreign aid package that we were giving to Guatemala at the time. And guess what the happened? Migration increased from that country. The
Why are they giving our
circumstance.
money anyway?
It's a way to address the issue. If you want to reduce migration, you can help them have better domestic situations so there's less corruption,
you
less
just build a
crime,
wall that
more
works.
economic. Okay, I'm glad you brought up the wall. He claims that he built hundreds of new miles of wall. Then why did we have this massive influx? Did it help?
Because the Bidens have been tearing it down.
No, wait. Did it help?
Did
it help? He claims that he built hundreds of miles of new wall. He didn't. It was 52 miles. But let's just take him at his word. He certainly renovated a lot of wall. He said that this would like fix the issue, and then we saw record spikes.
And it didn't.
So
Did
the wall work?
Can myself and IRI get to our point here?
Can we talk for 30 seconds here, Andrew? That's a clever deflection. Again, trying to take the bait. No, we're not trying to take the bait. Again, notice how Hutch is once more deflecting from the fact that we saw crisis numbers in 2021, 2022, 2023, and the Biden administration was constantly saying it wasn't a crisis. They're only pretending to give it now because
You
it's
had
an election year.
Mayorkas testifying in front of Congress saying we need more help. We need a bill from Congress.
Hutch, I generously let you talk when you're talking. I don't interrupt you. So if you could do me the same courtesy, I would appreciate that.
You're a little long-winded.
They're bringing this up during an election year because they're pretending to give a shit about it, and just like they pretended to give a shit for 3 years. And if they win, they'll stop giving a shit, and all of a sudden we'll see them flying in illegal immigrants like they're doing with Haitian migrants. This is purely about the record of Donald Trump versus the record of the Harris-Biden administration. When it comes to the border and the economy, Trump crushes them in all instances.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, IRI said that the nation under Trump suffered from some of the most widespread protests which were out there. However, IRI, are you willing to acknowledge that Democrats allowed their own cities to get burned down? created Jazz Chop. On top of that, that BLM was headed by Patrisse Cullors, who was a avowed communist Marxist at the head of this, and that this had all of the markings of what is called a color revolution. Are you willing to disavow the Marxist leadership of Black Lives Matter, who was at the forefront of those riots, and Democrats worked right alongside with them? Are you willing to do that?
I'm not familiar with any cities that got burnt to the ground. I think a building or a couple buildings got burnt.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
hang on. Gibbs. Let him answer to the communist charge.
well,
Are you willing to disavow the communists who are in charge of Black
IRI
Lives
is not
Matter?
a communist.
I will.
I'm not a
I will.
liberal.
I don't like communists,
those
but-
leftist weirdos. They're screwballs. I don't care for those people. But
Yeah.
it all happened while Trump was president. Can we admit that? And I
Yeah,
don't want-
that Democrats worked with communists in order to try to hurt the Trump administration.
Why didn't
Yeah, I
he
agree.
invoke the Insurrection Act then, Andrew? Do you condemn him for not invoking the Insurrection Act? Yes or no?
No, he allowed
No.
states to individually deal with these
Is that a
problems.
mistake? Was that a mistake?
No, I don't think that it was a mistake.
But you
I think
just said that-
ultimately-
You just said they were destroying
bro.
cities.
Bro, let IRI talk.
You
and
just
then
said
you
you-
and I-
you just
you
said
and
they were
I-
destroying
bro,
cities.
Fucked up, so it was a mistake, right?
Stop talking, dude. If you cut me off every 5 seconds, I can't even make my point. IRI, you will admit, won't you, that the head of Black Lives Matter, the leadership of Black Lives Matter, were avowed Marxist, correct?
There is no like centralized leadership of BLM that was sending out marching orders across the nation. BLM had its own little thing in each little city. Now, I understand there were some people at the top of some sort of like national organization that were some heads. I don't disagree with you on that. I don't care.
And that Democrats specifically, were allowing this type of violence to happen in their streets all over the United States. And they would
Wait.
do it on purpose. They would give stand down orders to their own police
Hold on.
departments to the point, hang on, IRI, to the point
Okay.
where it was the first influx of gun ownership that we saw where it started to actually move the goalposts for Democrats. Democrats started going and buying guns in mass in order to defend themselves from these very lunatics. Later, one acquitted, one Kyle Rittenhouse of self-defense, who I remember on your show, you tried to verbally crucify.
I don't want to get into a big BLM thing. My whole point is that it
My
happened while Donald Trump was president. Do you admit that? That's the point. What do you mean Democrats allowed it to happen?
Wait, so
Was
what?
Democrats
These
in
are
the office of the
localized
White House?
issues. By your own admission, you claim these are all localized issues. That
He
these
could have invoked the Insurrection Act.
Pisco,
didn't
why
say
do
these
you
are
keep
localized
talking when we're in the middle of having this argument? If you claim that these are all localized issues, right? Oh, BLM didn't have any grand leadership who was coordinating any of this. So it's all localized, and it's up to these local governors, local politicians to deal with these kind of riots which are going on in their streets. And how did they deal with them, IRI? Didn't they just kind of let them do whatever the they want? Damage property, millions upon millions of dollars in property. Basically, nobody got arrested for any of this. And you tried to verbally
That is
crucify Rittenhouse.
completely
Who was,
false.
stop
There were
talking, man. Let me
10,000.
make my
No, there were
point.
10,000 people
Stop,
arrested
dude.
that summer.
Wait,
Why
You're
do
lying.
you
Go
keep
with you
going-
after. I
Because
promise.
you're
I literally
lying.
let
Look at
you-
Hutch.
I
Give me
literally
direction.
let you get in.
Well, you're lying.
And didn't
10,000
interrupt you
people
once.
were
Didn't interrupt
arrested.
you once. Didn't interrupt you once. IRI, can you tell me if Kyle Rittenhouse deserved to be acquitted? Didn't he deserve to be acquitted? Didn't he?
I
didn't want the
did
trial.
not see the evidence. I wasn't on the jury, so I didn't get to see all the evidence. So that's not a call for me to make. I respect the jury's decision.
Okay, that's it. But you won't disavow the Marxist leadership either?
He
I thought he
did.
just did.
I don't know who the
He literally
the fact
did,
that
bro.
They are Marxists
You don't
is
know
so-
who's in charge of
Listen,
BLM?
They will circle jerk
Andrew.
against communism, Andrew. It is
Andrew.
okay.
I
Liberals
am
and
a
conservatives
liberal.
will shake hands,
Like,
circle
listen.
jerk against communism.
no.
Don't worry about it.
I just want to make
It's
it
all
clear.
good.
I think it's convenient. He suddenly
Communists
doesn't
are
know.
large
You
weirdos.
suddenly don't know
I have no
who the
interest
head
in
of
those
BLM is.
It's
He
not
just
convenient.
acknowledged
It's
that
just-
he
Why
doesn't
would
know
I
their
know who
names.
the head of BLM is?
How do you not know who Patrisse Cullors is? How do you
They're not
know
household
that?
names.
Why would I
Andrew.
know who
Yes.
that is?
Nobody
Because you
cares.
followed, because I watched your program and you followed these BLM riots.
I got shot with this little foam bullet, man.
Yeah, because you
I was
were an
just out there
agitator.
recording
You were an
stuff.
agitator.
What?
That's why.
It's like Trump was an agitator on
Bro.
January 6th, right, Andrew? He
What
was an
did I
agitator.
do?
Okay, that's a what about?
Yeah.
Why can we
Yeah, no, but I just want to be. I just want to make sure.
Question.
I'll answer directly.
We
Well,
can't
I'll
get-
answer
we
directly.
can't-
cooler
okay.
than I am.
No,
Well,
Pisco,
answer
no,
directly.
no one's talking to you,
Well,
Pisco.
we'll answer
No one's
directly on
talking to you,
BLM.
Pisco.
Oh, I know
We're
you're
talking
scared
to
of me.
IRI, Pisco.
I know you're scared of me.
Talking to IRI, Pisco.
Everybody.
Pisco, if
I
you
wanna
want
give
it, I've
Hutch-
offered to do
I mean,
multiple
Hutch,
debates
sorry,
with you,
I'm confused.
Pisco.
You're
Happy
like,
to
you have
do
to
it.
pay me. Andrew's like,
Wait,
you have to pay
I'm
me
gonna
in order
both-
for me to debate
I'm
you. You
gonna
have to
both-
pay me.
Yeah, pay me.
I mean,
I have a
well,
huge
they-
platform.
Pay me
You're a
early, yeah.
loser.
Okay, they're both muted. Both Pisco and Andrew are muted, bringing everyone peace and joy. because you
Can
know.
I say one quick?
Wait, why do I get muted in the middle of my argument because Pisco
Because
interrupted
I was telling
it?
you both. I was telling you both. We gotta give.
Yeah, you just
time to
mute
respond to your
Pisco.
question.
Me and IRI
I muted
were the
you
ones
both.
having the
I muted you
argument.
both because I was trying to give IRI.
Because you're biased as fuck. Go ahead, IRI. Let us
I
have the
just wanna
debate.
say-
Don't be such a baby about it. How about that?
Oh, dude,
okay?
stop bitching, dude. You know you muted me
What do you
out
mean
of
you're
turn.
bitching? Oh, I'm being prosecuted. Oh,
Yeah,
my God, it's a debate.
I have long hair.
No
I have
conservatives but
my
you
name is
bitch. You're the
Dylan Byrne.
only conservative
You're
that comes
the
on and
Down
bitch.
syndrome
Okay?
burn.
You're the
Shut up,
only
you.
one.
Down syndrome.
You are a
Down
child.
syndrome burn.
You are a literal child. You are an
Oh,
actual
fantastic.
child. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes, that's what a child
Oh,
says. That's
hey,
a
Rob,
child
you okay,
comeback.
You okay with that?
That's a literal
Yeah,
5-year-old
IRI,
comeback.
speak for yourself.
You
Still not
okay with
going
that,
to-
Rob?
Debate. Let's get back to the debate. IRI, were you an agitator?
I was not an agitator. I was there filming content and supporting my local community. But I just want to say, Andrew, I'm a liberal. I think communists and leftists are cringe, man, and they hate me and they wish death upon me. So
No, I watched some of your content. It looked like you were participating in the agitation along with BLM, doing everything that you could to push
how?
your
What
kind
did
of.
I do?
When you
had
were
that
there, you were
shiesty
doing
on, fam.
everything
I
that
saw
you
you.
could to profile this as some type of inequality.
You
and that
don't
Trump
know
is
shit. You don't know
responsible
what
for
he
this.
did.
Yes, watch me.
You're a bullshit. You don't know shit.
Ask IRI if I was in his
Let
chat multiple times.
IRI
Ask him.
handle it, Pisco.
That
Don't
true?
remember. This is 4 years ago, so I don't recall to be.
But that's what happened, Pisco. I was there. I actually do follow leftist content.
So why don't
Yes,
you point to a
Pisco.
specific of agitation? You just said he said things. Like you can't point to a specific.
Yeah,
agitation.
I was getting into it, but you just interrupt me.
Oh,
Every
so why don't you
15
go into
seconds.
Get into it. Let's
Yeah, I've
go.
been trying to go into
4
it,
years ago.
Pisco.
It was crazy.
Doesn't seem like
Yeah.
it. It sounds like you're making fun of people with disabilities. That's what it seems like.
No, just Dylan Burns.
Andrew,
Yes.
you've always been a. And
I
the
know.
only thing
Yes.
that's going to change is one day you might have more kids. Okay. Now let's
You won't
continue
have
with the
any
topic.
kids because you're gay.
Oh my
my
God,
God.
bro.
He's gonna get
I don't know what we're going to
No,
do.
there's
Anything.
that.
You
I don't know. You brought this up. I didn't bring it
You
up.
Okay.
are a child, my friend.
Fantastic.
You, you don't know anything about
Bro,
IRI if
hold
you're
on, it's quick.
accusing him of being a
I'll give-
radical leftist. You don't seem to make a distinction between liberals and communists. You just think
I
we're
don't.
all like literal communists.
Yes, you're all
Because
communists,
you're
yes,
silly.
from my-
That's a
You
silly
sound
thing to
unhinged,
suggest.
Andrew.
It's a silly
You're
thing
mad
to
about the
suggest.
interest rate, so you pouted for half an hour, didn't say anything.
The
'cause you,
int- hey, the
were upset
interest
you
rate
got
you still
blown the
don't-
out.
You
and then
mean
you just
going
going
on
after the
relax,
moderator?
let these guys go?
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
completely
just like
deteriorated.
Trump.
After Trump's debate with Biden, he requested another debate. After his debate with Kamala, he's now saying that's it. I think he obviously got rattled. She walked right up to him to start that debate, shook his hand, looked him right in the eyes, was staring at him for 95% of that debate. He barely looked at her. He was totally outclassed the entire time. I think that was obvious, and I think the polls reflect that. In terms of who is better suited to lead the country, just take a look at the two parties right now and just tell me what you guys think. And if we had more time, I would love to have asked my conservative counterparts, do you feel like the Republican Party is in a better position now than they were in 2016? I think the answer is obviously not. The modern American conservative project is in shambles. The House is chaos. They ousted their own House Speaker for the first time ever. They had one of the worst midterm performances in modern history during an economic downturn. The Democratic Party, in contrast, has never been more cohesive and unified in my entire life. I like our chances. I think we're looking pretty good to win the House. I think we're looking pretty good to win the presidency, and the Senate isn't completely out of reach. And so I think we are the adults in the room, and I think that the modern conservative project right now is just it's a joke. It's ridiculous. I think most people understand this, but